Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. So actually, I've graduated as a software engineer in my home country, Tunisia, in North Africa, and I started the Master of Science in Data Science right here in Bloomington 3 months ago. So I'm going to share with you my journey, and let me just share my screen. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Awesome. So actually, companies always send product manuals in order to help their customers get on board, but it's always boring, frustrating, and very expensive. I would bet like most of the audience would just throw it in the trash and just call customer support whenever they need help. And that is frustrating for both us as consumers and for the businesses themselves, as 70% of their customers will leave after just one bad support experience. 56% of support calls are already answered in manuals. 90% of returned gadgets are labeled as broken, but actually they work. It's just that people don't take the time to read in details about it. And when it comes to training their workforce on factory floors, most workers are injured due to a drastic lack of documentation. So how do we solve this problem? We help the hardware manufacturers transform their textual manuals into 3D, immersive, and smart manuals, allowing them to reduce their onboarding time of their customers and their workforce by 85% through engaging and real-time 3D, reduce the amount of support calls by 60%, while allowing those companies to offer a much better customer support to their end clients. So our end goal is basically to become the global hub for fun and interactive manuals. So it's a 3-step process. Businesses insert their 3D CAD data into our platform. So since they are manufacturers and they are creating hardware products, so basically they have the shapes, let's say, of the products digitized somewhere, stored within a specific file, just as you do with 2D images, but with 3D files. So they take those files, they insert them into our platform, they create the set of instructions to be executed through textual instructions and 3D animations. And then they just send the link to their end clients through which they can follow along the steps and interact with the product in 3D. So let's just jump on a quick demo. So I already imported the 3D of a small robot, and I'm going to create quickly a few steps with it. Let's say we have this section. I'm going to expand the whole. The goal is to like offer a certain 3D toolbox so that anyone can create those steps without having to be a software engineer, or I don't need to be a 3D artist in order to create those steps. It's really easy to use. It's in few clicks and everyone can access it through the cloud. But let's say, I don't know, I'm just gonna paint this thing, outline it in orange. Or no, I'm just going to paint it fully into something like that. Let's add a screwdriver somewhere. This camera up, and that's it. There are a lot of features, but I'm not just gonna go through all of them. So, and like this is also the product manual of an IKEA product that was already hosted on our platform that you can visualize later on, but it's already fully fledged. We just go through some of the steps, and it's really easy to use, and you just access it through a link. You don't have to download any software as a customer. It's pretty accessible. All right. So you create easily product manuals, you share them instantly to the end clients, and you track the analytics and how these manuals are being visualized. We're also working on the integrations part that I will later on talk about. So the customer support market, it's valued at about $7.6 billion with a CAGR of 70.7%. The serviceable obtainable market is valued at $500 million. And the most of manufacturers have either adopted 3D tech or are willing to in case they see that their competitors are doing the same. Our revenue model is a SaaS monthly subscription with several bundles offering different kinds of features. And we also offered additional services when it comes like for some specific manufacturers, they don't always have all of the 3D. So sometimes we have to create the 3D models for them depending on actual PDFs or through specific shots. or we can help them like through our partners to scan the actual hardware so that it already creates the digital twin instantly, and also help them in creating the manual and not only the 3D, and train them on our platform. So far we had about 50 interviews with decision makers, 12 codes, and some of them are already in the process. We have 5 paying customers, and our 3 main customers were actually Meubles Intérieurs, which is like the IKEA-like, but in North Africa, in Tunisia. Right now, they provide a specific hardware that you can plug into your house, and it tracks like the energy consumption. So they have special technicians that go to the customers and help them install the product. They're leveraging also our platform. And for Gérard Perrier Industry, it's a French hardware manufacturer, and they're using the platform not for the customer support, but mainly for the workforce training. So I'm just going to share quickly the holographic platform that enables people to visualize the same manuals that are created on the web platform, but on mixed reality devices like the HoloLens. And we can see the power of mixed reality as it offers a safe haven or a safe environment for people for trial and error. Like, we're visual learners, and we learn much better when we do the mistakes and learn from them. But because it's holographic, like, you don't get any injuries, and it's pretty safe for you to trial and learn from it. All right, so we have 5 paying customers. We've iterated the platform several times. So we're kind of mixed reality fanboys, and our very first version of our platform was something like you would wear the HoloLens and you would say, hey, I want a presentation about X. And it goes, it searches for that term X, it checks for some textual data, it downloads the 3D model, and that's it. So we had that very cool wow effect, but it wasn't really giving much value aside from that cool effect at first. So we switched our platform to mixed reality content creation platform. So you can create training through a desktop app, and you can have that training visualized like for your operators. But we had a small niche, and we didn't really have access to a lot of the manufacturers in our home country. Like, we started first with the first African car manufacturers called Wallis Car, but we found out that most of the hardware wasn't really created by them. So they didn't really have most of the CAD data and the 3D models. So we had to create everything for them, and that was not really scalable and sustainable. Which is why we somehow switched to the customer support rather than just focusing on the training. And we thought also, okay, mixed reality is cool, but it's not really affordable, especially for the companies that we were talking with, because the headset costs a lot. So we thought, hey, just leveraging 3D, but on the web or on the cloud, is something cool, and it really is really bringing value. So why not switch into that? So we started building our web platform that we do have customers using it, and we only came back to the mixed reality when one of our hardware manufacturing companies as client requested that. So we were really value driven, and we're going to build this because customers need that, not because we are some fanboys that want to do some really cool tech. Okay, so we also do have 2 governmental labels. This is Startup Pact and the French Tech. The Startup Pact like helps us by decreasing the amount of taxes we have to pay per year, and with tiny salary for founders. And the French Tech, like, it helps us incorporate quickly in France, network with several companies. As for the partnerships, the main partnership that we had was with Arrêt Métier, the French hardware accelerator program that matches us with 5 of the biggest hardware manufacturers in Europe. And that was based in Station F, which is probably the biggest startup campus in Europe. It's about 33K meters squared, and there are more than 1,100 companies out there. So through that Arrêt Métier French accelerator, we got a desk at Station F through which we could get the Microsoft for Startup partnership that gives us some cloud credits and offers us some co-selling opportunities, and for the Zendesk for Startups program. Zendesk is also probably the biggest customer support service company. Like, if you're a company that would like to help its customers, you can just have a Zendesk app through which you can track all of the inquiries and incidents that are raised by your customers. And we're also trying to build some integrations with Zendesk so that companies that are within Zendesk can also have the inquiries, like this is the dashboard of our platform. And so you can basically track the tickets that have been raised, and then, oh, okay, so I can mark this one as solved. So that would also match with your current Zendesk app. Our goal is not only to become the global hub for product manuals, but also be a one-stop shop for the hardware manufacturers, so that in one place they can create the product manual, they can share them, they can track the data, and they can also know what are the sentiment of their customers, how can they help them, what are the most recurring incidents, etc. So we do have probably 18 months of runway, as we've already recently raised the second seed round from angel investors, from also an seed fund that was also part of the Classic Labs accelerator, and some business angels. So right now, our next goal is to figure out the main key KPIs, customer acquisition cost, the lifetime value, building some integrations with Zendesk on Azure and AWS, and reach about 1,000 monthly active users while building a lot of manuals. We do have a YouTube channel where we're actually publishing the product manuals that we've created in forms of videos, and we do have a podcast where we bring in some customer success managers, and we try to emphasize on how important it is to really take customer feedback and see ways to have them more on board. So we can pitch that to more businesses, like, hey, I think we should join us and get on board, so that since the value proposition is pretty clear. And we're also trying to create a community of content creators, so that it's not only the businesses themselves that create the product manuals, but anyone that has some 3D skills and that would like to just create a product manual just from fun. So anyhow, we're basically 3 founders, and we're a team actually of 9 people. So I guess that's it. I think I've answered most of your questions. So do you have any questions?
Here's a question in the chat from Scott. How are you identifying, and what is your strategy for marketing and mining potential customers?
Okay, so right now, as you can see, these are mainly product manuals from IKEA, but IKEA is not yet one of our customers. So what we're trying to do is to have that community build as much as product manuals as possible. And then, since we're tracking users' data and how many viewers are coming into our platform, we can just pitch that to those companies. Or we're actually wandering in some social media like Reddit. We're searching for, hey, so this is the most used or the most researched product manual. We just put a link to our platform. So our value proposition, or maybe our strategy, is to track how much customers are coming into our platform, and we pitch that to the customers that we'd like to have on board. So I don't know if it answers your question well.
You're tapping into the customers first, and then we'll go to the business and show them your customers are already using us, and here's the data we have on their experiences. And if you were we could partner together on this in a different way with your, if you become one of our clients.
Yep. At first, we were mainly focused about the B2B market, the training, because we thought, hey, B2B is easier to tackle than B2C. But when you think of it, like, if you could really track as much as clients as possible, and then you pitch that to that B2C business, jackpot. But you will have to build a pretty nice viewer and really track all the analytics that businesses need.
Other questions? Cherif, who are your competitors? This is from Deepti.
All right, so some of the competitors we have Manulia that also centralize several product manuals, but they are in 2D. Layerize, they also have a lot of integrations and data analytics parts, interactive manuals, but it's also in 2D. Like none of our current competitors are really leveraging the 3D part and the analytics parts. So that's
that's your niche.
Let's say trademark. Yeah.
Cherif, can you tell us a little bit about your own history and your own journey? Were you in the workforce before you started your, well, where are you from originally? And then sort of what's that journey that got you to IU? Were you in the workforce for a while and then decided to get your master's?
All right. So I'm actually from Tunisia in North Africa. It's about 100 miles away from Italy, from Europe. And I've graduated as a software engineer. So the project that I've co-founded with two of my closest friends, actually, we were all students while it was still a pet project, let's say. And as I said, the first iteration was a mixed reality platform where like you could just wear a headset, a HoloLens, and say, hey, I want a presentation about X. Why is that? Because back in the time, we're also working in mixed reality. I was working at Kazendi, which is a British company that has as a product something called Holo Meeting. Think of it like Teams or Zoom probably, but holographically. So users can like interact all together, share 3D files with each other, and see how like manipulate objects synchronously. So we did have some mixed reality expertise, and also my co-founder Safwan, the CEO, also worked in a gaming company in Tunisia, and he was mainly doing some R&D on mixed reality. So that's why I was saying like we're some mixed reality fanboys, because we're really interested by the tech. So we started by building a product because we were interested by the tech. That's how we did it. And then as we got more and more mature, we started to shift our vision to something that really brings value to customers, and not something like, I see that even in startups, most of developers sometimes when they build features, they build things that are complicated or challenging, because when you do that, like you can pat yourself on the back and, hey, good job. You created a feature that no one's going to use. Yeah. But so yeah, there's that part. And how did I get to IU? That was actually about 1 year and a half ago. I had applied for the, I don't know if you know, the Fulbright scholarship. So I applied about a year ago, but if you're accepted, you only get on board like about 15 months later on. And I had applied before we were legally binded. Like we did have a prototype. We were pitching to customers, but the company wasn't really registered in Tunisia. And we thought of, hey, how about we could network in other countries while getting knowledge, especially when it comes to AI, because AI is a major part of our product also, as we provide. Currently, the AI support is pretty dummy, but it does some of the jobs, not a lot. And we also we plan to leverage AI for the 3D compressions, because as you might know, the more the 3D model is complex, the more the rendering is more time consuming and it needs more computing power, which might slow the performance. For a 3D model like this is pretty performant, but some manufacturers have really huge 3D models, so we have to find ways to automate all of that. So the AI part, like getting expertise in AI on the long end, was also an end goal. So we thought of, hey, what better than going to the US to network, to study, while self-sustaining through a scholarship. Like we don't have to open an office for now. We're planning to open in Delaware, but for now I can just like network and study nearly for free, let's say. So that's the cool part of it. Yeah.
That's cool. And why IU?
Why IU? Actually, so one of my closest friends also got the same Fulbright scholarship 2 years before, and she was also studying a Master of Science in Data Science in IU, and she really recommended me to go to that university. So yeah, sure, why not?
That's awesome. Other questions? Here's one from Scott. I imagine that manufacturers may ask about the protection of their intellectual property.
Yeah, sure.
Be nervous about it, right? They don't want their competition to have access to those features. So how do you address that concern with the client?
I'm going to be a little bit technical. So when it comes to 3D models, there are a lot of formats. Just like images, we have JPEG, PNG, etc. With 3D models, you have about 100 of formats. And most of the manufacturers, when they create the hardware, they create the 3D files, they are mainly in SLD part, like in formats that are managed by SolidWorks or CATIA, things like that. So they have a lot of metadata that is really important, and they don't want other competitors to have that knowledge. You're right. What we're doing is that we're converting those manufacturerish 3D formats that are complex, like the step, the SLD part, and the SLD assembly, in formats that are like GLTF and GLB. So GLTF is basically just like the JPEG, but for 3D. And so I was saying that in the step file, you have a lot of metadata that is important. But when you convert that step to the GLTF, you remove all of that key metadata, like the physical constraints. So like you have one part on top of the other, and it has to maintain a specific pressure. You could have that metadata, let's say in step or in whatever, but in GLTF and GLB, you don't have that. So at the end, you only showcase the shape of the product, not the key metrics or the key metadata that are embedded in the original 3D file. Plus, you can always, even when you import the 3D into a platform, you can, I don't know, just a second. You can hide some of the parts or not export everything that is really important in your product. So let's say I just showcase 11. I only let 3 parts of being visible. So again, when you import your 3D, you have control over what parts are you going to showcase. And because we do that conversion that removes that metadata that is key, it's just a shape. Like it's like, hey, you're afraid that your car is going to be reverse engineered, but you're not actually giving the engine. You're just giving the external shape. So no worries about that.
So Scott, what comments do you have about that? Could your competitors just buy a forklift and take it apart?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, I was hesitant to be off of mute. I have a son with a birthday today, and it's been a little bit crazy this morning already. Yeah, I guess I was nervous just from a standpoint of safety, of not letting the intellectual property get into the hands of the competition. Even if we were using your product to make maybe training manuals, what is the protection that I have that the competition couldn't somehow get this from? How do you protect that?
Well, for the training part, actually, you're not going to showcase that to all of your customers. So you're just going to showcase it to your own employees, which means even on the sharing part, you can make it private, or probably you can share that to specific users. So any product manual that is hosted on our platform isn't necessarily being visualized by everyone. You can like, okay, which customers are you going to showcase to, or which employees you would like to showcase to. So you always have access about the power over the accessibility.
Okay.
Cherif, you talked about being a mixed reality fanboy. Is mixed reality different than virtual reality? Is it just a different name?
Yes, totally. In virtual reality, like you wear headsets, but you're not really aware of your surroundings and all the physical context. So basically, you're mainly given some motion controllers that still somehow simulate your hands, and that's how you interact with virtual products. But on mixed reality, as you can see, like the table is real, everything is real, and you have holograms that are like they are added on top of it. And plus, because like you can see both the physical world and the holograms, it doesn't give much nausea as virtual reality. So it's really different. It's more easy to use. It's more instinctual, and it doesn't give headaches.
Headaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for VR, for specific people, yeah, they can't do it for more than 30 seconds. It's somehow an issue.
Yeah.
Indeed.
What other questions do you have, group?
Cherif, this is Brian. So I work with a company called LHP Engineering. We do a lot of data analytics and IoT consulting. So we've used a lot of this as use cases with PTC's Vuforia. And so this is terrific because I know that we've done a lot of demos and gotten a lot of interest, but a lot of times we've not really ever been able to get a customer to commit due to the price or complexity. It seems like you've really sidestepped a lot of this, which is great. So I'd probably want to connect with you after this as well. But as you guys kind of go forward, what are some of the other things you're looking to develop, especially around kind of the mobile device and capability? I know a lot of factory workers are increasingly wanting to leverage, tablets and cell phones.
Okay, so right now, as a startup, like you can't do everything all at once. Yeah, you can't like make a cool web app, mobile app, mixed reality app. That was the case actually a year ago, but we were using a different kind of technology than the current one. So we were trying to be cross-platform. It helped us like get customers' feedback and shape the features. But when you do everything all at once, it's not really good, that good. So then we switched it to our platform, like it was fully focused on the web. And right now we're trying to make it mobile friendly. So it's maybe, I would say 60% ready. Let me just try out right now. So we're trying to port the web to the mobile, and it should be ready about at the end of December, I would say. Well, even when it's small, I could somehow, well, the emulator is not that great. I think I should try that another time on a real mobile phone, not through the browser. But we're trying actually to port it to mobile. So yeah, by the end of December, it should be ready.
Awesome. No, that's
not
great.
really a huge deal. We don't have to develop a mobile app. It's just the web that becomes mobile friendly. That's it.
Yep. Yeah. I
know
another issue we've had is that what we used, the Vuforia app required an app and was not lightweight by any means. So yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Cherif,
the issues with augmented.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to let you know there's another question about how do you communicate with your team since you're sort of all over the world? How do you stay up to date with one another?
Well, we're all using Microsoft Teams. I don't know. Even in the previous startup, I was working with Kazendi, and we were also full remote. So we had folks in the US, others in France. I was in Tunisia, someone else in Spain, and a few others in England. So, like even the daily stand-ups, we were doing them. They were supposed to be done in the morning, but we were doing them at 3 p.m. because we had some folks in the US. And for us, I don't think, especially in IT, working remotely is an issue. I'll get back to your question, Brian. Not too worried about that. So, especially when with IT, like we can just collaborate together in terms of code. There's something called the GitHub where people can also, well, it's recorded. I cannot show the code, but it's a platform that allows people to really collaborate easily, review each other's code. So on the engineering part, it's not really tough. And as an agile startup, we constantly have some meetings. Like we have a weekly planning meeting by Monday. Like we set up which metrics are we going to, which KPIs should we enhance, And then based on that, we say, okay, we have to build these features and this one, and we have to talk to these customers. We have to make those tasks, etc. The rest of the week, we do daily stand-ups, just some tiny healthy checkups to see whether everyone is well on board. Are there any issues that we can help each other with? And it's pretty easy to jump on the call and help each other. So actually, I think being mostly remote helped us but much better than just being all physically present. And no, you have to be from 8 to 5 p.m. at the office, otherwise it's not gonna work out. I really believe that remote gives a lot of flexibility and a lot of ease in the way we communicate with each other. So it's not really an issue at all for us.
Not an issue.
And we're custom. Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry. Get back to Brian's question. Make sure you guys have sealed that up.
Well, I think no, I didn't forget the question. So we were talking about the mobile friendliness, and then one issue with AR is that it's not really accessible by all the devices. Like when you're going to do augmented reality, you need to have specific specs, and it has to support a specific camera with specific performance. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to map the environment. But when you think of it all, 3D itself is much cooler than just a 2D video, and it brings value. Augmented reality is cool, but sometimes it's nice to have. Like, okay, I could see it holographically, but I can also see it on a pretty bad mobile and still interact with it and go through the steps. So yeah.
I agree with you. We used it a lot as kind of a demo at trade shows and things, and we would kind of pull people in, with the sexy AR thing, but then we would really start talking about, well, what actually can we help you with? So yeah, I 100% agree with you on that.
We used to think about AR like a year ago, but with maturity, you start to realize, hey, stop thinking about nice to have things and really focus on what the customer wants. How can you really solve their problems and remove the fanboys? For God's.
Yeah. No, this is great. You guys are, I think you might be sitting on the nose of a rocket ship here, because I know there's been a massive need with a lot of our customers, and we haven't, really, because like you say, you're either trying to give them AR, which they're not quite ready for yet, or, it's just the digital manuals, which are not, really that transformative. So I think you guys have struck a terrific balance here. And like I say, I think we probably ought to connect after this. So yeah, this is great. I've got a customer in mind. They actually had asked us for something like this, and it specifically said that they didn't want the PTC Vuforia platform because of the cost. And, certainly you guys are engaging in a very competitive price point. So that's awesome.
That's actually a really good segue. Cherif, this community, I don't know, we're not that far away, less than an hour's drive, and about a third of our workforce works in manufacturing, and we've got a couple representatives of the manufacturing sector on the call. So this community maybe offers some potential customers or test cases for you. How might we collectively as a group help you get connected to folks that can help you grow your business? What are some really tangible ways we could help you?
Well, we're mainly targeting companies that are facing complex customer support processes, or are dealing with heavy machinery, so that even their workforce is not really well that trained. So any company that might identify in that specific scenario, like, we would love to catch up with them. Another thing is that we are trying also to tackle the assembly instruction company creators. So when you go, let's say, I don't know, to IKEA and you check their PDFs, they don't necessarily, it's not, it's not that all companies that create assembly instructions, they're not really doing it themselves. Most of the time, they outsource it to external companies. So we're also trying to figure out which companies are doing that work, and we can propose our content creation tool for them. So they can still sell to their end clients, but in a much easier way. It's also second. And after our last few interviews with two other French manufacturers, I cannot say their names yet, but we're seeing also a huge potential in managing all of the customer support life cycle. So many companies also would like to showcase not only assembly instructions, but also the catalogs of their products. So as a consumer, I can check your website. I can go through what are your products. I can customize, like I have this in green, this in yellowish. I can buy it, and then you can track. Oh, I bought that product, and you can send like I directly have the assembly instruction of it, and then you can also manage all the interactions that are going back and forth with us. So basically, how would you help us? Any company that might have contacts or is operating or have complex customer support processes or training processes that are complex, we'd love to catch up with them.
Yeah.
And even maybe probably some, I would say, experts in lean management, or they're really into the industry and they know maybe some of the issues that we might haven't seen yet, probably. So yeah, any industry insiders and customers. We're really focusing on customer acquisition.
And when you say customers, is there a single job title or department that is the best entry point for you based on your experience? Is it the engineering department, or is it the sales? Where do you find the best place to enter?
Well, for instance, with the GPI, the Gérardin Industrie, and for the French manufacturers, it was mainly folks working on the lean management, mainly of the hardware part. But for customers like, let's say, IKEA or Meubles Intérieurs, which is somehow like IKEA, it's mainly sales representative or customer support, customer success managers. So yeah, there's not really a single user persona for everything. It really depends on the company itself and the way it operates.
Mhm.
And sometimes engineering teams don't really have the upper hand on the decisions. Like they talk to them in case they need some advices, but they're not always they don't have the upper hand sometimes.
I love the IKEA examples. I'm not in manufacturing, but boy, I've put together a dresser or two. And I've often told people that before you get married, you should probably assemble an IKEA dresser together to see if you could possibly make a long-term relationship work. But that helps me to understand what it is you're doing. And because they don't, they don't have text, right? It's appealing to people of all languages. This tool you have kind of transcends the language barrier problem, doesn't it?
And when you also think of it, when you print the product manual, you're somehow obliged to print it in several languages. For instance, if I read the product manual, I'm either going to read it in English or French or Arabic. I don't need to have it in Chinese or Japanese. So basically, even on the printing end, you're wasting a lot of time and a lot of money. Like one of our goals is really to transform industries to become paper-free. Like, why are you printing 7 times what you could have actually printed only once? So you only need one language, not 8 or 10.
One of my questions was, since you are the expert in manuals, how do you onboard your own customers? Do you have a manual for your tool?
I didn't fully get the question. So like, in terms of demo or in terms of how
Right.
do they get
Is
more
it-
than know how to use our product?
Is it intuitive, or do you have a program that provides some sort of manual for using your own tool? I know it wouldn't look like the kind of tool you're creating for other folks, but you're kind of the expert in showing people how to repair things, how to put them together. So how do you address your customers' need to get to the place where they're really comfortable with this tool?
Okay, so for now we don't really have the manual for the manual creation tool yet, but we're mainly like already engaged with our customers to do as much demos as possible, and be like, although it's part of the services that we offer at first, but especially for the early customers, it is fine if we could help them, like even for free. It doesn't matter, like as long as they learn to use the features, and we're mainly interested in having them help us shape the product by also giving feedback. Okay, I want this feature. I have this problem when I create a manual, so I would like you to ship this feature for us. So it's not really a big issue, because even as founders, we're always here for the support calls. Like, so whenever customers need us, hey, we can make a demo, we can showcase how the product is being built. We can also help them create the manuals, even at a cheaper price or for free, depending on the relationship. So we're not at the scale where we have to automate everything. We can do some of these steps manually. We can always be there, even as founders, and support our clients. It's our job description as founders. So yeah.
I was really hoping you were going to say that you had a printed manual to tell everybody how to use it.
Yeah, we should ship that.
Yeah, just a joke one that you print and you send it to people. Ah, just kidding. Actually, log on to this URL.
Exactly. So, Cherif, you've got a team of highly skilled technical folks. Do you have advisors around sort of the sales and marketing, the financial planning? How are you staffing in terms of really building a business?
Well, when it comes to advisory, we have our own Bible internally, which is the Startup Owners Manual from Steve Blank and Bob Dorf. And we were lucky enough to have actually Bob Dorf be our advisor back in 2000, and at the end of 2018, 2019. There was a program called the OST, Open Startup Tunisia, which is a program that is co-hosted by the Columbia School of Engineering, Columbia School of Business, and where like we got into the finals, and each team of the finalists gets mapped with 5 business students and a mentor. And our mentor was Bob Dorf himself, the co-founder of Customer Discovery. So that was mainly the first mentorship, like really awesome mentorship that we had. We went through last year the Flat Six Labs. Like Flat Six Labs is an accelerator in the MENA region, implemented in several countries, including in Tunis. So they offer us like $70K, but it's switched between services and cash. And since they are an accelerator, they also like constantly mentor us. Hey, okay, you need to meet with these customers, or you need to talk with these experts in this industry, and that might help you. So we're always trying to surround ourselves with experts. And as we also got in Station App, there were a lot of programs, a lot of mentors to talk to, and we really like appreciate the advisory from our investors. So we're trying to surround ourselves with experts, and also on the learning part, get knowledge from different kinds of sources, not from one single source. So there's that.
That's awesome. That's great.
I know you've raised a little bit of money to date. Is there any plans to raise another round, and what's the timing for that?
Well, by the end of next year, I would say, yeah, we will launch our Series A. But for now, we're really focused just on customer acquisition, and getting some big deals. Like at least if we could get, I don't know, an IKEA deal, it's jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
For now, we are focusing on customer acquisition, but yeah, we're mainly planning on raising funds by the end of next year. For
Gotcha.
sure. And I would say. Cool.
Any other questions for Cherif? All right. Hearing none, I'll wrap it up with a big thank you to Cherif for sharing his story. And we said at the outset of the call that next year we will do this monthly for the first, what I hope will only be about the first 6 months of the year, and then hopefully we'll be in a better place in terms of the virus, and we can return to our coffee shop meeting space where not only we get to hear from really talented entrepreneurs, but we also get to connect and learn from one another. So we'll be back with Founders Friday on January 15th and hope to see you all there. Just sending wishes for a wonderful holiday season. Stay healthy, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
Thank
thank you, Kylie and Sai, also for the recommendation. And for anyone who wants to catch up, especially Brian, like let's connect on LinkedIn and have a chat.
Absolutely, we'll do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cherif.
Thank you all.
See you.
Thank you.